You're thinking about going to the Peak District, but you're like, where do I go? Where do I park? What hikes do I do? Is there going to be any dangers? What's the difficulty? How long are they? And what apps do I use? And do I put my Strava on? Well, it's all going to be explained in here. And yes, I would put your Strava on, as well as the app that I'll explain in a bit. The app I used for all these hikes is All Trails. And if you're like, oh, I don't want to pay like £35 a year, there's a 7-day free trial. Just do that. But I ended up just buying it because I used it so much, and even outside the Peak District. So not a sponsor, but it's a good way to start unless you want to use a map like old people do. So I have 7 trips and one little stop off that I would do that's about 20 to 30 minutes. So you could either do these once a day, or you can do 2 a day, or you can just pick out your favorites out of this video. For all the hikes, they're all in the links in the description. Another thing is, I did stop the recordings each time. So where it's 3.5 hours, I might have rest for like 20-30 minutes, just so you're aware. And also, I took my time. I didn't speed run it. I wanted to see the mushrooms. I want to see the wildlife. I want to see the trees. Anyway, let's get into the video. Trip number 1, Mamtor, Winlet's Pass, and Cave Dale. This took me about 3.5 hours. And the distance itself was about 6.5 miles. A lot of people park in the main car park, but I don't really want to pay. So if you go down the old Mamtor road, there's a few lay-bys there if you get there early. Just park there, and there's a path that takes you straight to Mamtor. I did this on the sunrise, and honestly, it was stunning. I was there from about 5:30 to about 7 o'clock watching the sunrise and the fog. It's really good to start here first, even though all trails tell you to go the other way. I personally would go straight to Mamtor first. The difficulty on this, I'd say, is moderate because there was a few hills that you had to climb just so you can get up to the Mamtor, but the rest of it, it's pretty flat, bit hilly in some areas, just so you're aware. On the path there is Odin Mine, which is brilliant. You can go in there, it's like a little cave, but be careful, it's very slippery. You go through Castleton Village, which is a cool little village to have a look around in. Personally, I think this is a brilliant starter to see how the Peak District is like, because you've got the hills, you've got the views, you've got the flats, you've got the downs, you've got everything that's all just chucked into one, and I think it's a good start to kind of that warm-up, should we say, of the hikes. Number 2, we've got Bamford Edge and Stanage Edge. This took me about 4 hours, and it's around 8 miles. I'll personally say this was quite hard. The first bit, it's sheer upwards, so be aware that's quite tiring. I parked down Ashtopton Road and then walked up the Clough and started about halfway in on the map because I wanted to go to the Angler's Rest for a pint, which is a nice little pub. It's very up and down with the hills, but the views are really, really nice. But it is very, very sheer up and sheer down, just to be aware. But it's good to stretch your legs, you know, that's the main thing. Where you're quite high up, the main attraction that you'll be seeing is the peaks and the highs, and just how far and how vast the Peak District is, and how your eyesight can just see so far into the world. Number 3 is LUD'S Church, the Roaches, and the River Dane. This took me about 1 hour and 40, and is about 3 miles, but I'd say it's relatively quite easy to do. I parked in the Roaches Grand Batch car park, and it wasn't too far of a walk. There is another car park prior to this that's like £5 a day, but the next one's free, so it's up to you what you want to do. Apparently it was a mythical hiding place for Robin Hood, and it's formed by a massive landslide. It's also called the Devil's Finger now because it feels like it's scratched into the earth, but it's a nice foresty little walk where the Peak District is very vast and it's quite bleak at some areas. With this, it's foresty. It's actually quite nice to be in the woods. And also, if it's a rainy day, you are sheltered. And the River Dane covers all of the area. So you kind of just walk along the river. But it's a really beautiful trek. And for me, LUD'S Church was probably my favourite thing there. I don't know, it just felt magical, is the only way to explain it. Number 4, we have the 3 Shires Head, Cheeks Hill, and Axe Edge. But just under 4 hours, 3 hours 50, and it's about 7 miles. I will say the difficulty is quite hard. I parked in the Leek Road lay-by, and it took me straight onto the path. It does lie in the junction of Derby, Chestershire, and Staffordshire. That's why it's called the 3 Shires. And the waterfalls are beautiful, even though they're tiny. But this is very hilly, and again, has very scenic views. I probably would say this is very similar to the Bamford Edge and the Stanage Edge walk. Number 5 is the CHEE Stepping Stones. This is a quick one, only 1.5 hours, and just over 2.5 miles, and quite easy to do. Where I personally parked, because I slept overnight, was in the A6 CHEE lay-by. It's quite quite easy to find. There's normally quite a few lorries there. And the trail itself is on the Monzel Trail, which is originally a train track. So it's cool. You see the tunnels of where the train line would be. The CHEE stepping stone itself are in a gorge along the River Ray. I really like this trail. It was just nice to do, and the stones are really cool. They are very slippery, so just be careful when you are stepping on them. But the shots are lovely, and I'll be honest, these old train track tunnels, I kind of like them. If anything, I might have preferred them a little bit more than the CHEE stepping stone themselves. There's a lot of people who cycle around there, so maybe you could do that as another thing to do that day if you're just doing one trip a day. Number 6, we have YOULGREAVE and Bradford Dale. This took me about an hour and 45, just under 2 hours, and it was just over 3.5 miles. Very moderate, I'd say, on the difficulty scale. And I parked the Coldwell End car park, and you can pay. It's about £3, has a nice little toilet. You start in YOULGREAVE, and then you walk along the River Bradford. There's lots of old buildings, I'd say, that are falling down. They're quite good shots for your landscapes. But the main reason I went here is because these little books with titles on them add lore to the area. Don't know, spooky, kind of witchy, Wiccan type lore, which I like. So it's a bit of a walk, I'd say, just to see them, but I think that's the best thing. And I'll be honest, it's a bit of a hidden gem. I don't see a lot of people walking on here. If anything, I think I was the only one. It was very quiet. But I definitely would go, especially if you're into that kind of spiritual pagan type things. Mini stop off, I'd say, is to go to the Druid caves. They are very famous. They're just hard to find. And once you find them, you know, you don't feel so stupid, because that initial trying to find them is quite hard. So this one took about 30 minutes, and I'd say moderate due to the kind of the sheer drops and the walking in the caves, and they were mostly quite flooded. So I recommend to park along the Myers, down the main road. There's a lot of parking there. You want to walk down to the Druids Inn, which is a pub. Very nice in there. I just personally prefer to move up a bit just in case there's any drama with the parking. There's a little sketchy path that takes you straight to the Druids behind the pub. The Druid caves itself were not actually caves. They're not actually owned by the Druids. They're done by this random bloke who lived nearby called Thomas Eyre in the 17th to 18th century. So it's not actually a Druid cave. But yeah, just be careful, as I said before, the ledges, cool little walk, and it's a nice little stop off. I don't know. I liked the little town. I thought it was cute. And the Druid caves, I wish I spent a bit longer, but it was very cool. There was also a bloke rock climbing up there if you want to do that too. But yeah, just a little stop off area. So I just want to put it in there. I know it's not really a hike or a walk, but something to do for half an hour. THORS cave. See, this one's a long one. It took me about 5.5 hours, but taking the fact of the stops, this was around 7. This was 10 miles in all, and it was a very long way. I personally did it because the initial trek makes you walk to it first. I didn't feel it was that rewarding, so I went the long way, should we say. I parked in a lay-by near Manifold Valley Road and Leek Road, and it worked really well. They say that the THORS cave itself was inhabited early at the Stone Age, and mostly there is kind of like limestone. But the Manifold Valley itself has a few mini caves to go in. I had a little look around and just a nice little area just to eat for a bit, you know what I mean? The really nice bit as well, we kind of end up in this little town called Alstonefield. There's also a pub there for a little stop off, and there's a cute little town just to kind of break up, seeing loads of just vast views of grassland, but actually a bit more towny, a bit of human life, should we say. So there is 7 hikes and 1 little walk to do, and personally these were the best ones. I did all this in about 4 to 5 days. There were 2 others, but out of all of them put together, these 7 plus the mini ones are the best. I had a great time, beautiful views, beautiful photos, great videos, as you can see throughout the whole video that you've just watched. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, if you want to see more like this, I've made a VHS behind the scenes of where I'm walking around and my experiences in the Peak District, so make sure to check that out. Also remember to like, comment, subscribe. I want to just see what else you want me to do, where you want me to go, and if there's any more hikes, I'll happily share them.